you didn't say just you're influenced by the environment that you're in. You made a really interesting point that I want to emphasize, which is we get to create our environment. We get to create and choose our exposure.
Exactly.
Okay, welcome back to the Dr. Crockett Show. Happy Tuesday. I'm your host, Dr. Susan Crockett, and I have a very special guest on the show today. This is CJ Hurt. Welcome, CJ.
Thank you. Hello.
It's such an honor to have you on the show.
Likewise.
I didn't
Thanks
know
for having me.
You're welcome. I didn't know much about you when I invited you. You know, all I knew was that you were Kiki's significant other, husband, right. Yeah. And so you've kind of come on as a plus one today on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Huh?
It's been a pleasure.
It's really fun. We started talking. Me too. And we're like, oh, let's go have a shoot. Let's talk on the air.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So those of you that haven't seen Kiki Johnson's episode, you need to go back and watch hers. A fantastic episode. We'll put the link down below. But her husband and she have an investing mindset. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. In fact, today's show is called Compounding Interest of the Mind, or Compound Interest of the Mind.
Correct.
And that's kind of something that you have...
It's to make it easy and to know that it's bite-sized chunks.
Baby steps.
To change.
Yeah, to change. So we were talking at dinner a little bit about that, the idea of compound interest with money, but also when we're trying to become a better version of ourselves, we take small change.
Exactly.
And practice a lot, kind of like being a musician.
Exactly.
Which is something
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, we have in common.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been making music since I was a kid. I remember like making music and like my grandparents' tape recorder, the small one with the little bitty cassette, recording music there. And it's flourished into what we're doing now. Yeah.
And you're the vocalist for your group.
Correct. Yeah. I do some rapping.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've never had a rapper on the show before.
Really?
Yeah. Whoa. First thing.
Let's go.
So my music background was a little bit different. I was classical piano trained and then oboe and orchestra.
Okay.
But I think the cool thing about music is musicians' brains work in a different way than other people's.
Usually.
And so as we started talking downstairs about your investment strategies and getting to know you and Kiki a little bit better on that scale, I was just struck by the fact that, you know, the musician mind moves pretty quickly, willing to take risks, be innovative, and try new things. And then that's where the creativity and the manifestation comes from.
That happens. Definitely being able to see the finish line and not worry about the steps on the way and figuring it out along that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Just make it riff and go for it.
Make it work.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
So you have a saying when you're talking about investment, your little tagline, you said it was exposure
and environment. Environment, exposure, the big E's. That's kind of my motto to life. Getting older and learning more, starting to figure out things. I realized the only two things that kind of correlate, that are always a factor, were what I was around and what I was seeing. And the more you continue to evolve your environment and your exposure, you show me your 5 best friends and you're going to be the 6th one type of situation.
Exactly. So that's a really important point, is that you didn't say just you're influenced by the environment that you're in. You made a really interesting point that I want to emphasize, which is we get to create our environment. We get to create and choose our exposure.
Exactly.
Tell me about how that has influenced you as far as investment in your goals in life and all of that.
Starting to see the world for what it really was.
When did that happen? How old were you?
Like 21, 22. And I was like, hey, it's set up for you to win if you want to win. But it's also set up for, it's some pockets of comfortability that were created to keep certain things where they are. And once you start to question those things and not believe anything, and scratch that pineal gland off a little bit, decalcify that, you start to see more and want more, and it starts to become more reachable and attainable when you see it happening for someone else. And like, hey, I can touch this person.
Yeah.
They're doing that.
So tell me about how you got started, because you didn't start at the investing level. You started in
sales.
Yeah.
I'm a talker.
Yeah.
I've been selling phone sales, in-person sales. That's been really where I started my career, and got a job at a real estate seminar company. The ones that always say, hey, we're having this 3-day workshop and come and learn about real estate. I knew nothing about real estate. Got a job there selling real estate courses.
Wow.
Started to sell courses, heard back from some students that had gone out and done really well with things. I'm like, hey, what I'm selling them is making more than me selling it. So let's start to shift that. But I owe that time of life everything. That's where my big ease really happened, when I was starting to realize, hey, I'm in different rooms. These are different situations. These are different conversations.
Yeah.
And I like it. And I want to continue down this route. And it was doable.
So that's where you got the different environment and the different exposure.
Seeing it. Being there and like, hey, this is different. And I was trying to figure out why it was different. And then I'm looking at everyone around me like, how is this? And I'm like, oh, this is just what they were around. This is what they're used to. This is their normal.
Right.
And I figured out you can just make your normal different.
Yeah.
Change your norm.
You say that like it's no big deal, but that is.
It took a lot of steps. I still watch motivational videos to this day.
Yeah.
Every morning I wake up, meditate, and I'm watching motivational videos. And then I'm sharing it with my friends and family. And it comes off sometime as, it comes off as I'm Mr. Perfect to some people.
Really?
And I have to let them know I'm watching these videos and doing this because I have a lot of self-doubt. I have a lot of insecurities. Wow. There's a lot of different things that I deal with, and I overwork and I try to overshare with other people because it's what I'm dealing with.
Well, and you want them to have the knowledge that you have. You want others to have that benefit too and get the little light bulb on.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you're a mover and doer, and not everybody is a mover and doer.
Sometimes that's where the compound interest of the mind comes into play. That's the small, you invest $20, $30 here into this stock, and then it starts to compound.
Right.
It's not, I put $200,000 into this thing and now it's doing this. Small little things here and there, and you just got to keep adding though. You can't stop.
It's the daily habits.
Exactly. Habits are everything.
They are, and they're sometimes hard to change. But so a lot of what we talk about on the show is helping people evolve into the best versions of themselves. We call it their virtuoso selves.
Okay.
But we have a belief on the Dr. Crockett show that if you want to change the world and make it a better place, you start by helping individuals become in a better place and become their best versions, because then they naturally start doing better in the world around them. And then it propagates that way.
Right.
And so one of the first steps that I've learned about in my life coaching background was that you first have to be exposed to something different to even have a vision that there's something different to strive for. Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit with Kiki about how the internet and podcasting has influenced that. Mm-hmm. You've mentioned motivational speakers. Who are some of your favorites? Would you mind sharing them with our audience?
Gladly. Dr. Eric Thomas.
Okay.
By far he's the one. He's the one that stirred the pot for me, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I enjoy this outlook. I enjoy that hunger, that passion. It might be overwhelming to some people, but I enjoyed it because it was different. It came from a religious background, mm-hmm. but it also had the realness of the real world aspect to it as well. Right. Religion isn't just doing the right thing. He also wanted us to be fruitful.
Right.
That's going out there making money, figuring out what's going on and not just be a watcher.
Right.
So Eric Thomas is definitely at the top of that list. But podcasts go on. 19 Keys is a very influential individual that I watch a lot.
Okay.
Well-spoken. And then there's podcasts like Earn Your Leisure. Troy and Rashad, those individuals are teaching financial literacy.
Fantastic.
to a culture where it wasn't the most pushed to the forefront, and it's working, and they have Invest Fest, they have Investables. There's a lot of different things they're doing that it's very inspiring. I'm excited to see the world that my kids will live in.
Yeah, it's compounding.
Yes.
Yeah, it's moving so fast. Tell me a little bit how you went from doing the sales job into actually doing your first investment into real estate. Tell me about how that transition happened.
I put together the resources that we were showing the students and started to figure out where I would fit best. And I started off in wholesaling real estate.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
What's that?
So wholesaling real estate is buying a property and selling it for its after repair value to an investor. So
okay.
I have properties that I get under contract. Let's say, just throwing numbers around, I pick it up for $100,000. I know in that neighborhood, the fixed up, newly renovated properties are selling for about $260,000. So then I can add on like $10,000, $20,000 to sell that to someone else that they go and put $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 into the renovations, and then they sell it, and then they make their profit on the back end.
Interesting.
So it's kind of middlemaning a deal.
Yeah, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, it's a fun area. So it's one of my favorite parts about real estate.
Huh.
Buying, holds, rental properties, those things are, but that's the real movers and shakers, wholesaling.
Huh. That's such a niche thing I didn't even know. So you do that, and then you also own and rent properties?
Correct.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got a rental property to go check out today.
After the show today?
After the show, I'm going to go take a look and walk through and see if it's something that we would like to add to the portfolio.
You say that like, yeah, that's just my day.
So,
Isn't that cool?
Go take a look. Yes. Years ago, I wouldn't have imagined this conversation. I wouldn't imagine being here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine being with Kiki. So I've known Kiki since the first grade, growing up in a small town. Yep. We dated in like as much as dating could count in elementary and high school times. We ran across each other. And then
she's an amazing woman. Yeah.
That lady. Yeah. Great. And life made a full circle, and we reconnected.
But what I love about your relationship is that you're both on track for these dreams and goals and supporting each other for this, moving forward with the growth and the investing. A lot of times when you see couples, you see one that's interested in growing and changing and moving, and the other one's not, and it kind of pulls the relationship apart. So
can't happen that way. It's definitely a blessing.
Yeah.
To have a partner that's also in the same mindset and same aspirations, totally different, same end goal. But we definitely want the same things at the end of it, and definitely see the same things for our children. And we, same age, same hometown, same schools. We had a lot of the same environment and exposure at a certain time in life. And then to see what we wanted to turn it into, it makes it a lot easier to have someone that you've known since the first grade.
Yeah, because she knew you then. Yeah,
I know
she's
you.
not just coming on to latch onto you now that you're all rich and famous. Yeah.
So it worked out well.
That's awesome. So great to know you guys as a couple. That was a really a huge blessing for me today, getting to see y'all together and have lunch together. And I appreciate that.
It was really good, by the way.
We were working on a little bit of gut health there, weren't we?
We were getting things together. That's definitely the direction of things moving forward for me as well. Making small, compounding interest type of steps toward my health changes and removing things. Been away from pork for a while now, and trying to do away with the red meat altogether. I don't know if I'm going to go full on plant based, or if I'm just going to kind of hang out with pescatarian type of diet. I don't know where it's going to end, but exploring meat alternatives and different things of that nature, just to kind of. So it's a car, man.
It is, right?
It's an engine, and we got to put the right fuel into it.
And everybody's a little bit different, and I think that's a really important point to make. That even though we teach whole food, plant based as the baseline for what we recommend as a healthy diet. If you look at some of the materials we have, like the freebie download, when people come to our website, it has this spaghetti remake, and it goes from the absolute sugar-filled, processed, jarred, I'm not going to put a brand name on it, but we all know those that we ate as kids, right?
Right.
And then it goes through eliminating the processed foods, eliminating the sugars, eating, the more whole food made versions, to eliminating meat or doing a meat product, a plant-based meat product, or going all the way down to eliminating the noodles to making them zucchini-based or rice noodle-based instead of the refined flour, and then
enriched,
right? Really
crazy. It's not exact opposite. It's not enriched at all.
So everybody's going to fall in, along the way, the pathway of quote unquote healthiest to not. And what I like to teach my patients is that what you eat 80% of the time is really what your body is going to use, right?
Fair.
I mean, if you can get it right 80% of the time, you don't have to be perfect.
You don't.
So our New Year's show is B+ is good enough.
It is.
80.
It
is
is
a B-. But so when I love what you're saying about being curious about trying different things, that's how I tried, how I shifted to, and I've shifted back at times to more meat eating for, protein and muscle gain.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I'm really convinced about is that the processed stuff is not good for us. And
processed stuff, things that can go in the freezer, things that don't spoil. That's not natural.
Yeah, that's not natural. The French fry that stays on under the car seat and doesn't rot. Yeah.
Same color. Yeah. So I agree. And there's been you just got to be curious. You got to be curious. You got to question everything. And that just goes down to, I don't know why it was set up that way. I think it was probably around, I was talking about earlier, I think it was World War II when they first started to try to make things okay for the soldiers to pack and keep for months at a time.
Yeah.
But that became the normal, and, microwave dinners and things like that
they started out with a good intention. We had a malnourished population that was underfed, and the government started introducing these things, and then capitalism happened and came along, and now all of a sudden we have these massive factories for meat production. And it's kind of it's interesting. I've never been one of these people that is environmentally driven for the diet thing. I've looked at it more from a medical standpoint.
Right.
I'm
a little selfish there, but I'm worried about my stomach.
Yeah, I'm being honest. I want my microbiome to be healthy, so I'm eating the veggies, the fruits, the seeds, the nuts, and the whole food stuff, the whole plant stuff that's feeding the microbiome, which makes my serotonin levels higher and makes me happier, and then all of that. But I've never been on that side of the environmental impact or the animal rights type of thing, which I have a lot of respect for people that are in those realms, but that's just not been my take on it. But I recently just watched that new Netflix documentary, the 4-part documentary with the twins.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
I saw the preview. Definitely intrigued. I'm definitely going to watch it. Curious.
Yeah.
Can you share a little and not spoil it for me?
Yeah. So I'm blanking on the name of it. Do y'all know, audience?
You are what you eat.
Oh, You Are What You Eat. Yeah. Thanks, studio audience. Appreciate that. You Are What You Eat. So it's on Netflix right now. It's brand new 2024. So they took 21 pairs of twins, identical twins, so genetically identical. And they put one twin on a whole food plant-based diet, and they put the other one on a healthy omnivore diet. So they eliminated the really unhealthy processed meats and really terrible saturated fats on the meat-eating omnivore diet. Omnivore means you eat all kinds of things. So they were allowed meat and dairy and veggies. And they did extensive physiologic testing. It was so fascinating. They did treadmill tests on them for their aerobic fitness and strength training. And so for 4 weeks, they had prescribed meals delivered to them. And then for 4 weeks, they had to make their own food. And then at the end, they measured the difference in all their blood work, like cholesterol levels and blood pressure and weight and body fat composition and poop. They were looking at microbiome. Right. And this was one of the first studies to really look at the gut health, the gut microbiome and the influence. And it was staggering what they could see just in 8 weeks, the changes and the benefits of leaning more towards a whole food plant-based diet.
You can change your genetic makeup by what you eat.
In 8 weeks, yes.
It's really different.
Yeah.
And they're printing meat now. You got to be careful.
You got to be careful of that printed meat.
They're printing out. They're making meat now.
That just does not sound good to me.
Not at all.
No. So that's a really important point. That's called epigenetics. And what we've discovered is that the genetics that we're born with, like on our DNA and our cells, is only a very small fragment of our destiny. So our DNA is not our destiny. Man, that falls into so much of what we're talking about here, right? So our environment, your exposure and your environment for your food changes the on-off switches on all of your genes. And so that is where you can thwart your genetic risk for cancers. If you have genetic risks in your DNA, it's where you can have a healthier, longer, sustainable life into your geriatric years, because we're learning through epigenetics and all these food choices about how we influence our genes and what changes the good genes on and the bad genes off. Mm-hmm. So environment and exposure.
It all comes back. I'm telling you, it's my favorite things ever.
That's really brilliant. You said it at first, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. And now I'm like full circle on everything, including our food and our epigenetics. All right. Well, this has been really fun having you on the show today.
I loved it.
Yeah, me too.
It was fun. Good talk.
Yeah, good talk. Thanks for coming. You want to tell people where they can find you?
If you're looking for investment properties, visit hurtlessinvestments.com. If you're looking to sell a rental property you don't want to deal with anymore, hurtlessinvestments.com, or we're on Facebook, Hurt Less Investments. And Chris Hurt, and selling your home shouldn't hurt. So we're Hurtless Investments.
We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah.
We'll give you a little.
Find me and Chad. People are looking to learn more about real estate. I'm starting to lean more toward being that exposure for some people.
That mentor of exposing other people.
And being able to be what I was looking for.
You're so young for doing that. I'm so, I mean, I don't mean that condescendingly, but you're like a generation younger than me. And for you to already be at that stage where you're reaching down to the next level, I mean, that's truly inspiring to me. That's awesome.
It's what I would have wanted. It's what I would have appreciated to see. And I can't think that everyone's gonna, take that and run with it, but
the ones who
for those that need it and that will, and
they'll get it.
Will start to turn and change their environments and bring more exposure, and they get to go do the same thing for someone else.
There you go. Great show. Thanks a lot.
Good one. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
All right, Dr. Crockett.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us this week. If you like the show, and who wouldn't like this was a fun conversation, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have suggestions about what you want to hear us talk about again, next show, next time, later on down the line, just drop a comment for us. And hope you have a great week. We will see you next Tuesday. And I'm going to challenge you to expand your environment and your exposure for this week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.